Okay, starting over. All right, so welcome to the first week presentations for the second cohort of the data school.
Woo!
So this week, they are their task was to, along with doing some paper and crayon exercises, their exercise was to take an existing visualization that they submitted for their initial application to the data school and do a makeover. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nye, and she will take it from here. So I am going to make you the presenter, Nye, and I'm going to mute myself.
Hey Andy, you might want to unmute your machine because we now can't hear anyone.
Yeah, I was trying to just unmute them individually, but they can just talk loud, and hopefully my computer will pick up the sound. Oh, now somebody else is not muted. Mute all. Okay. Is that better, Craig? Although you're muted now, so it doesn't help. Okay, so Nye, why don't you go ahead and I think I need to somehow minimize this screen. Well, my computer is picking up the sound.
Okay, cool. So this is, to start off, this is kind of a screenshot of the highlights of my last presentation, and we're just fixing the echo.
Oops. We're too close together. I know, Aaron. I'm trying to figure out how to mute the volume. Turn the volume. Actually, we need to turn the volume. Okay, try that.
Okay. I hear an echo.
Can everybody just turn the volume all the way down on their computers? It might be coming from Rob's computer. Off? Yeah.
Turn it off, back pressing F1.
Yours is on. Just turn it back on. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's try this again.
Okay.
Take 12.
Take 12.
That one?
It's this one, but we turned it off.
Let's try that now.
Nothing like being the first person to present.
Yeah, but I have to have my volume on.
It's still. But it says.
Hold on. Let me see. Everybody is muted. No, everybody's muted. There's going to have to be a lot of post-production editing on this, I think.
It's
Mic and speakers.
It's off. It's not confused. For now, it's not.
Okay, just talk. Don't touch it.
Okay, should I just go?
Let's make sure this is on mute as well. Sorry, technical difficulties the first week. Okay, so that's muted. And then unmute yourself. But the problem is it's playing the sound back through here, even though we have it on. We have the volume on.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is that better? You're supposed to be good at this by now. I know, Robbie. except we can't figure it out. Hold on, guys. Thanks for being patient. It's just this one computer.
Whoa.
Is that you, Lorna?
Yeah, I switched my device.
So something's wrong with the volume on this computer where it won't turn off. So how do we? No, it says it's turned off, but it's not. Okay. Mute. Okay, is that better? No. Hello. Goodbye.
Okay, cool. That's what we done. So you just what we're hearing. They're not hearing it.
So are you? Hey, Robbie. Message. Are you hearing the echo? On this slide. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, I'm just fire through it.
Try not to break your concentration.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, yeah, I can hear my own voice. It's weird. Okay, so this is my my initial biz that was looking. It's just a couple of screenshots, and originally it was supposed to be kind of like an infographic that you could scroll down. So this kind of splits it up, but there's supposed to be one kind of long scrolling thing. So some of the critiques of this is that the city data, which is those kind of tangled orange lines, it's kind of hard to read. You can't really make sense of it, and as well as the tree maps, again, it's not giving much information. So originally my idea for this was that if you were planning to take a vacation somewhere in the States, that you could kind of figure out where to go based on temperature, based on precipitation, and then, yeah, this was my initial attempt at it, so it didn't really work out that way. So I'm going to show you my reworked biz, which hopefully is a bit better. So all of this, so basically with this, the biggest thing I learned today was Andy's DNA chart, because it kind of looks like DNA going from the minimum, average minimum temperature to the average maximum. And if you look at the first sheet, it's sorted at this time from the coldest cities first to the warmest. Oh, and one thing to note, this data set was not a complete data set. It's only showing 8 cities. So hypothetically, this.
So we can only take vacation in 8 different cities.
Yeah, you can only take a vacation to 8 cities. I don't know why, but yeah, but that's just the data set I was working with. So at this point, it's sorted from coldest first to warmest. So we can see that Chicago is generally the coldest city in this list of cities. I'm the kind of person who prefers warmer climates for vacation. So if I came onto this and I said, okay, I want to see what are the warmest cities that I can possibly look at. So I could click right here where it says pick a sort and choose warmest cities, and then it essentially mirror images and reverses. So from here I can see that Phoenix and Houston are the warmest cities out of this data set. And I can also, once I figure that out, I could choose, where it says choose cities, I can narrow things down to just those 2. So Phoenix and Houston. And let's say that I really wanted to go to Seattle as well, kind of see the birthplace of Tableau and you know, see what's going on there. So I could add that as well and just see how they compare. So as you can see, Seattle's the coldest out of those 3. And you can also see how the temperature changes across time for this specific data set. So if we look here, we can see for Houston, the warmest maximum temperature was around August 2014. Phoenix was around 97 in July. So if I really wanted to go into a scorching place, I could pick those, or I could just kind of move along and see, you know, a more friendly temperature range.
So that's the average temperature in that month, correct?
In that month.
In that
yeah.
month, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the warmest month, yeah, because
Yeah.
Houston gets hotter than that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's for that month. And then you can also see on the right side, you can see how precipitation fluctuates from the same dates. So if I wanted to, let's say I said, okay, well, this looks like a warmer month in Houston, but in actual reality, it might not be the best place to go because around that time it starts to rain pretty heavily. So you can kind of see both and make a decision that way. Or another way to do it, if you want to look at ranges, is you could choose your temperature range and say, okay, I want a minimum of, I don't know, 60, a maximum of 64, and then we just get Houston. So then I can figure out like, okay, well I guess Houston's my place to be in March. So yeah, no Hamburg for me. I'm gonna be in Houston this March. So yeah, this is
So can you reset it back?
Yeah. So you would just go back and then apply.
Back in so we can kind of look at the whole thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
There it is.
So aesthetically, this is really, really good looking, I think. I typically don't put colored backgrounds, but for some reason I think it works in this view. And I like the very consistent use of the red and blue throughout. Red meaning max, blue meaning min, right? I have that right there. Yeah. And the sorting, and the only thing I might have done differently is so the line chart, you're using a black line. This is very, very nitpicky. I would probably have used a black line on the DNA chart as well.
On the DNA chart, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when she selected a couple of cities, the average temperatures also were selected at the bottom, and they weren't the same sorting as above though, so that would have been nice.
Have to be the same.
Yeah, we had talked about that, and she wanted to leave it alphabetical to me because the top and the bottom don't necessarily relate. Because the top one's about temperature and the bottom one is about
the one on the right
temperature
is
change.
about
So
precipitation.
yeah, so it didn't. Yeah, that might be one thing is to just have. So you're saying have all of the visualizations sort the same way.
Yeah, just so it's easier to.
Sure.
Just know what's going on.
Yeah.
I really like the sort as well, where you can quickly fit between cold and warm. That's really good.
Yeah, that was Andy showing me parameters, which we haven't really picked up on yet.
Right.
Depending on which you prefer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anything will be on the precipitation where you've got maximum, it kind of works opposite way for temperature as much as you kind of want the lowest. So if you're thinking from a heat perspective, you'd be looking for the west, but obviously the precipitation maybe is the other way around.
Yeah, I mean that's where it becomes tough, because she's using red to always represent the maximum in the graphic. So,
But psychologically, you're like, okay, maximum rain equals cold, so red is not cold.
Well, because if you could link that to the sort, so that the bottom two, that's sort of a change to the answer would be quite cool. Well, that's getting a bit on where we're at so far.
Anybody online have any feedback? Aaron says he likes that Charlotte is on top. It's not anymore.
It's just alphabetical when it's on top.
Yeah, if we sort it alphabetically, it's on top, but that's the only chance you get.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say, it was unclear until you started to explain what the average temperature changes were. That it was just the highest and the lowest. But other than that, looks great.
Who's that? That's Aaron talking.
Yeah.
So I have him unmute. Oh, he's not muted. Aaron, can you speak up? It was hard to hear you. Sorry. That's because.
It's the volume on my.
Yeah, sorry. Over. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hold on one sec. Let me turn the volume up. Oh, there we go. Okay, try again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you barely.
Okay. Overall, this looks great. It was just unclear that it was maxes and mins on the the bottom charts.
Okay.
So I explained it, but overall, it's a good chart.
Cool. I don't know why we're having trouble hearing you, but.
Thank you.
And then the whole above, below the line, sometimes you just want to look at, you don't have to scroll down to get the information.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's saying get rid of the scrolling in the viz. Yeah, we talked about that, and, we just kind of made a decision that there's a time and a place for scrolling. And then the and Ravi disagrees with you anyway. So his first, you guys obviously couldn't hear what he said. The first thing he said was it would be nice to have a legend, so you knew what the blues and the reds meant, to help it make a little more sense, which I think is a good call. So anybody else? And by the time they graduate, we'll have this GoToMeeting thing figured out. So, all right, good job, Nye.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to steal control from you, Nye.
Okay.
I'm going to mute.
Why the audio might have been messed up. Is that fun? That jack. That seems like an audio jack.
Oh, okay. So I wonder if we should try to say use. See what happens. Okay, so you are unmuted. I can still hear. Oh wait, that's yours.
Oh, yeah, mine's over there.
It's hard. Okay, Aaron says it sounds good. All right, awesome. So next up is Lorna, and you guys probably should introduce yourselves as well. So.
Okay, my name's Lorna.
Oh wait,
From
you're not presenting.
I'm not? Oh.
Share your screen. There we go. Okay, sorry.
My name's Lorna. I'm from Warrington, or as Andy calls it, I'm from Scotland for some unknown reason. I don't think I sound Scottish, but oh well. So this is my original viz, which is on gymnastics, as I used to work with British Gymnastics.
In Scotland.
Yeah, I did go to Scotland, but yeah, I went to the World Championships, which was in Scotland, but I'm not from Scotland. So originally my idea was to just like look through the competitions and be able to select a gender, because men and women do completely different things in gymnastics. Be able to select an apparatus and then potentially select a medal, and then we can see what country are getting what medals, and then who's getting what, and then what the score was for the qualification and final. So looking back now, the colour on the map is just completely wrong. It should not have been put on like that at all. But I realise this now, and the fact that there's no actual consistency. So the fonts are different, the colours are different, and it just doesn't really make any sense. So I remade it. So now all the colours pretty much are the same, because I've gone off the select a medal colour, so use the pick a colour function. So now the map is bubbles, so that you can see all of the individual countries, and it's ranked by total medals from that country. So as you hover over, it'll tell you how many medals that country has won. But then we can also break it down by how many golds, silvers, and bronzes that country has won. So, and then on this side, you can just see the score, but it's just you can see the score, but I think it's better at the top, because when you're presenting back to coaches, the first thing they want to know is, right, well, what score won that medal. So even though, so say we go beam and Baku, which was the European Games, to win gold, the score was 14.066. So in the final, it was 14.2. So the coaches will be able to see that a lot easier than what anyone else would. But then, so, and now you can see the number of medals per gymnast and who's on top, really. And then you can filter by country to see who's won. That wasn't done on purpose, by the way. But you can see who's won the most medals in that country. And
then you can also see like what the score was on beam or on volt. You can do a numerous of different things. It's mainly just for exploratory stuff, but I think it's quite.
All right. So I think my favorite thing in this visualization is the filtering on the left-hand side. The interactivity using all the cool shapes and stuff like that. I particularly like the apparatus ones for some reason on the line. But, so I really like how you did the filtering there. The consistent use of color throughout is very good for the gold, silver, and bronze. And then the sorting from left to right. So I don't know if you notice in her stacked bar charts, the golds are always on the left, silver in the middle, bronze on the right. So that's very useful. The only thing that I think we were struggling with a little bit was the map and what color should you use for the map. So the map basically is just sized by the total number of metals, right? So it was a little bit of a struggle to sort of, because you don't want to, I don't know. I wonder if maybe we shouldn't have used color.
Maybe.
But then it'll look like silver.
Yeah, just look like circles.
Yeah, or maybe just black or something. So that might be the only thing that could be improved a little bit. And for some reason, the upper right, so in that view, am I supposed to be comparing the finals to the qualifications, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just telling you that more medals were handed out in.
No, that's telling you that. In the qualification, in the qualification, they then go through to the final. So whoever won gold, silver, bronze, it's then what they scored in the qualification.
Now that I understand it, it would have probably been great to use the DNA chart like she did.
Okay.
To compare the two.
Yeah.
Because really, you're trying to compare gold to gold.
Yeah.
And not look at the slope of the line.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand it better now. I should have asked you that question before. But do you guys see that?
Yeah.
So I would probably flip the chart the other direction and make it make it go left to right.
Yep.
And just comparing, because you're trying to compare finals to qualification by medal, right? Not the other way. Okay. So when you use a line chart, your eyes are drawn to the shape of the line. So that's why I was thinking that we're trying to look at gold compared to silver compared to bronze, but actually you're not. Okay, makes sense. Cool. Really good, excellent interactivity in this dashboard. Really good. Yeah.
Very nice.
Any other feedback?
You were talking about the color on the map. Were you also talking about, because I'm having a hard time seeing the actual countries, like it's light on light.
Yeah. That must have faded out.
Better on her screen a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the TV. It looks okay on my computer.
You can just about see it on when you actually look at it on the computer. It might just be because it's on.
Yeah. That was the only thing.
Yeah. Cool. Any feedback online? Robbie says anything north of London is Scotland to Andy. So that's true. So let's see. Robbie says really like the subheaders. I don't use them much at all. Like 3. What?
3 months in.
Oh, till 3 months in.
Great practice.
Subheaders. What does it mean? Oh, the subheaders. Oh, okay. The click in the country. Yeah. So we talked a lot about that during the intro to DataViz class.
Yeah.
So. Right. Is it an appropriate time to break the zero axis rule? You mean where do you see a zero axis, Aaron?
No, he's saying there isn't a zero axis, but it's appropriate.
Oh, it isn't. Oh, I was reading the quotation marks as a question mark. Sorry. This is a good time, and I think that's where So he's talking about your line chart on the upper right there. You don't need to start at 0.
No.
Because otherwise they would look like they're right next to each other. It wouldn't really add any value. So yeah. Cool. Anything? Aaron says good use of fonts, consistent fonts, which is good. You did a lot of cleanup at the last minute.
I wasn't.
All right. Excellent. Good job. Next up, we have. Wait, I'm going to take control back. I'm going to. Let's see. Oh, I just. Hang on a second. Yeah, and I will mute you.
All right, next up we've got Ben Moss, and do not unmute your computer because we have a special speaker that Craig reminded me that we bought, and he said, "Why the hell aren't we using it?" So we're going to use this really good speaker that we have. I do, but you can sit in. No, you should stand when you're presenting. So just say not right now. Yeah. Okay, can you guys still hear on the Webex? Yes? Okay, thank you. So I need to give Ben control. Ben, where's Ben? Make presenter. Okay.
No.
Okay, so you show the screen. And you should still be muted. Okay, you are.
Good.
It looks good. Looks a little.
Hello everyone, my name's Ben. I'm a sports analyst by trade, so that's why I'm dealing with the tennis data. So all I've done for is sort of an exploratory sort of view. So I have tons and tons of tennis data over the last 10 years. Tennis listed at the top left. So I just decided to throw it into Tableau and see what I could do with it. So I applied with it and then I've come here and tried to improve it. So over the last couple of days, the main way that Andy's tried to get us to learn is through critical appraisal. And we've done that through 4 different stages. So we've looked at identity, key factors, stories, methods used, and effectiveness of visualization. So I'm just going to go through mine, and I'm going to do the same. So first of all, we talk about key factors. So are the key factors that are behind the visual easily defined? And I don't think they are particularly. It's not easy to determine who the audience is. It's and the type of audience, and also it's quite hard to see what the identity of the visualization is. What is its purpose? So I think that's quite difficult to tell. The second point was the story. So is there a story behind this visualization? There isn't particularly. It's just, like I said, it's exploratory. But one way that you could do this is if we had the measures in the top left, if we had them all on one page, so you could see them side by side, that would then lead to a better story rather than having these individual characteristics which you can't compare. The third was the methods used. Bubble charts are quite hard to compare, especially when you've got so many different figures on, so you can't really contrast the size. I think the bar chart's fine because it gives that easy comparison between players. But again, it's not necessarily used right because there's a scroll bar with 300, 400 names on, which makes it quite difficult for a user to compare between the two.
Make sure you're speaking this direction. They're having a little trouble hearing you on that.
Sorry, the effectiveness of the organisation. So did it fit well on the screen? Well, on the one I published to Andy, you actually had to scroll, which isn't ideal, especially when you're just cutting off the bottom of a bubble graph. You're not scrolling down to see more visits. So that was quite negative. The top right, again, we discussed yesterday the use of filters. So in the bottom left, we have the tournament trophies, but not many people can easily recognise which tournaments they're from. So I think it was Carl suggested using the actual logos in the top right, which have the names of the tournaments on, so it makes it more comparable for the user. And colours, they don't really add much because there's so many countries within the system, that one colour doesn't necessarily represent just one nation, it could represent 2 or 3 if we select other things, such as if I go and select entries. Oh, no, it's an image. It's an image, not the dashboard. But yeah, so I'll now put on my new visualization. So I started this in quite a different way. I was reading the Storytelling is Data book. I don't know if some of you have seen my tweet that I put out the other day, but there's a quote in there that says, if you only had a limited amount of time or a single sentence to tell your audience what they need to know, what would you say? So instead of doing that at the end, like I did with my other one and I couldn't find an answer, I decided to do that at the start, so then I knew the story I was trying to tell when I sort of put together this visualization. So in this, the story I'm trying to tell is that the number of players in the top 10 rankings for each of the key performance indicators that I've looked at is disproportionate to the amount of players that have won a Grand Slam. So if we look in the, for example, at the first graph, so match win percentage versus higher ranked players, only 22 players out of 900-ish have won a tournament, but yet they represent 60% of people in the top 10. So, and that's the primary use that I've done here. So that's what I've gone for. So there's two ways I try and guide the user to this sort of conclusion, and that is, so I ask a question for the title, so KPIs in tennis, but just how key are they? So it's sort of forcing the reader's hand to try and look for that understanding. And the second is I use the colour, so I faded away the players that had won a Grand Slam and brought forward the players that hadn't. So you can see that the dots are quite sparse, so that suggests there's a disproportionate amount. And that is, of course, the key reason behind the visualisation. There's a couple of other bits of best practice that I've used. So it's quite simple, it's nice and clean. There's only two primary colours. I've taken away any noise, so I've removed the axis because they're all on the same axis. And that's not what I'm primarily trying to tell. I'm primarily trying to tell about this disproportion rather than the actual numbers behind. If the users were interested, they can always hover over and they'll use tooltips to identify the actual percentages, how many titles were won, and the individual players. And again, so if the user actually wanted to use these graphs to make other comparisons, so one of the key ones that I saw when I was watching a tennis match the other day was that the game win percentage and the set win percentage between the top and bottom players, the game win percentage isn't much at all, which you can sort of tell there's half of them are ranked in the top 10. But if you look at the set win percentage, then it's only one of the top 10 that haven't won a Grand Slam. So there's clearly the user can see a disparity between the people winning games at the right time to win the sets.
All right, so one of the things that I really liked that he did here was highlighting the people that did not win Grand Slams and trying to show, these are really important statistics in tennis, and how many of the top 10 really do, or how many players that are in the top 10 do well in these statistics yet don't win Grand Slams. So in particular, the game win percentage and the deciding set win percentage. So, what is that?
So
it leads me to more questions.
Yes,
okay, well, why is that? Why, especially the deciding set? There's 5 out of the top 10 lose the deciding set. Or no, that's win the deciding set.
So
okay.
I think the reason underlying that as a sports analyst is the top players only come up against the top players in deciding sets, so they're very likely to win most of them.
Right. Yep. So I think that's a pretty interesting look at it, and I like how you can see lots of things in one view.
I think the main thing here was to actually present a story rather than just this information.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Okay, so Paul Chapman said, very nice and clean. I would maybe have used a tennis court as a custom background and made the blue circle a custom image of a tennis ball, yellow to bring it to life, but like this. So Paul likes chart junk. So because we did look at an example. Remember that soccer one that we looked at, the Castrol goals, and you couldn't see them. So you have to sort of be careful with that. But I think what Paul's saying is each of these could be, so it might be 8 tennis courts or something like that. But
I think the main impact is the pillar. I think is quite important.
Yeah. So it's a really good use of using highlighting here for the blue circles.
Hey guys, Craig here. For me, I think I get a bit lost in the titles, because the subtitles, because they're so small. So I'm desperately trying to work out what they say and just kind of getting, the visualizations really has been simplified really nicely.
Yeah.
But my eye is just sort of being drawn towards, what the subtitles say.
Yeah.
And then I've got to come back and then work out what the dots are and do the comparisons.
Okay.
So I think just some way to make it a lot clearer about what each chart is showing.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of happened as you were describing it, and as Andy was asking questions, you're kind of getting lost in, that's match win, not set win,
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, so Craig, I think part of the reason that it's so hard to look at is the resolution on the computers. We're still trying to get that figured out.
Yeah. Thanks for the excuse.
It's been kind of tough to get that working just right. All right.
Yeah, but I think the font size is a big thing. The main title works, the KPIs in tennis, but just how key is really clear.
Yeah.
And then everything else, all those subtitles are so much smaller than even the text about the 8 graphs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's see. And Aaron says, Ravi says maybe add guidance slowly to each chart to follow a theme.
Yeah.
Is it necessary? And then Aaron says, is it necessary to compare all of these at once, perhaps parameters to click through? So yeah, Aaron, we talked about that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Why you chose to do all
the
these?
reason we chose to do them side by side was it gives that comparison between the KPIs rather than looking at them separately, and you have no reference then to what are the other what's happening in the other KPIs at the same time.
Okay. Anybody else? No? All right.
I just really like the idea of what you've done. Because someone who doesn't know that much about tennis, it's quite interesting to see how people go on about stats in sports, but actually how many people are winning titles despite.
Yeah, I didn't believe that when I saw it, but it's.
But there are only 22 players that won a Grand Slam?
Of 900.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Because you wonder if,
in
if the guys that are winning, their stats are that much higher
right.
than the rest.
They probably are, yeah.
It'd be interesting to look at the more formal stats, such as ace, forehand winners, backhand winners, etc. But
it might be interesting also to have one more, or maybe a reference line, or one more dot on each of these for the average of all players.
Hey, that's true.
To kind of see, how, because that would answer that question: how much better are they than everybody else? The top 10, they're probably miles ahead. Well, everything's probably going to be at 50% actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. But it should be.
Half above, half below. If the math is right, yeah. So. All right, cool. Good job. All right, so next up is Jules. So, Jules, I will make you the presenter. You can just. Yes. Oh, you want to do it up there?
Yeah. So bending down.
Oh, okay. I just need to change the. As soon as you plug in, I'll just change the. Yeah. Can I just do not now?
Lorna.
Showing up.
I don't want to break it.
Okay, I see your Windows Explorer. And then hit the. All right, you guys ready? Yep.
Okay, so my original viz was basically on, as you can see in the top left, how to be successful.
Oh, introduce yourself first.
So, yeah, I'm Jules. Yeah. So my original viz was on how to be successful in the English Premier League, which is the top football league in the country. And one of the big things I've taken away from this introductory week at day school, when we've been looking at vizzes and how we'd improve them, is that quite often it's not obvious what the inside is, despite them having some cool information to share. So, and then we went through this yesterday, and some of the feedback was that the story points were too long, as you can see after filling up quite a bit of the box here. The colour choices were maybe cluttering the viz and not adding value. My original intention was to sort of make it reflect the Sky Sports colour scheme, and the viz title could be more specific, because I realised what the story I was really trying to tell was how the English Premier League was disrupted in a particular season. So that's what I've changed the title to, and that's the story I'll tell now. So disruptions are a term we've heard a lot this week when people are talking about Tableau. And it's quite interesting how that can relate to sport as an analogy. I quite like this definition of disruption, especially this bit here, where it says there it's displacing established market leaders. So to put this into context, it's useful to see who were the dominant forces in the Premier League before 2004-2005. So here's a list of everyone who's won the Premier League. And the size of their logo is in proportion to how many titles, well, not exactly in proportion, but related to how many titles they've won. So Manchester United are the biggest, they've won 13 titles. And below that, you can see that they won 8 out of the 11 seasons, so they won 73% of the seasons before 2004-2005. But after 2004, this drops to 42%, so something's happened. You've got Chelsea next to them, who've won 4 titles, and all of them have been after this period. And sorry guys, Arsenal won 3, and none since 2004.
Sorry, won all the Marvel leagues. Used to it.
And more recently, Man City have kind of burst onto the scene and won 2, and then Blackburn as a one-off way back in 1995. So, what is there any data that suggests that disruption did take place in 2004-2005? Well, this is a viz showing the winning points totals and their distribution. So on the x-axis, you've got all the seasons along the bottom, and on the y-axis, you've got the successful winning points total in each season. And you can see this line which points to 2004, and after that, the distribution is all on the top right. Apart from one, their distribution is mainly above this reference line of 85 points, whereas before it's variable, but most of them are below this reference line. I've just put a little note here to say that seasons before 1996 aren't shown because there were 22 teams rather than 20, so obviously because there are more games being played, the points totals, it's not really fair to compare. So now that we've just shown when the disruption was taking place, it's time to look at who was behind it and how they did it. So in 2003, Chelsea were bought by a billionaire who, in his first year in charge, spent a phenomenal amount of money. At that time,
almost as much as he paid for the team. More than he paid for the team.
Yeah.
They bought them for pounds.
Yeah. So 100 million, 150 million. And when you look at these names, not first team players, so they were just buying a huge amount of talent, and it didn't really matter if the players were successful or not because they had the money to just go and buy more. And it paid off because 2 years after we bought the club, they won the title, and they actually set a record winning points total. They kind of blew the rest of the competition away. But obviously, teams like Manchester United and Arsenal want to win the league, so they had to respond. And so it kind of changed what title-winning form means. So the main response was obviously to win more games than winning before. So here you have seasons along the x-axis again, and on the y-axis this time we have the percentage of games won, percentage of games drawn, percentage of games lost. And this red line represents the average for all of these charts. You can see after 2004, the percentage of games won is consistently above average, just apart from 2011. So that was one way teams responded. And this effect was actually most apparent for teams' home form. So it's the same chart, but this time we've just got home games displayed rather than all the games. You can see that there's a big spike after 2004 in terms of home games won. Away form improved as well, but it was a bit more variable. And then this chart shows the position of the eventual winner at different stages of the season. So you've got seasons again along the x-axis, but this time you've got what position the eventual winners are in with a quarter of the games played, and what position they're in with half the games played, 3/4 of the games played, and then near the end of the season. And we've already highlighted the eventual winner's position at the halfway stage of the season, and you can see that before 2004, teams have been 6th and still gone on to win the league, teams have been 3rd and still gone on to win the league quite a lot. Whereas after 2004, it's very, very rare that someone who wasn't winning the league at the halfway stage goes on to win it. And another interesting analysis to look at how many points the eventual champions were off first place at all these stages of the league season. So here we've got the points deficit, or how many points behind first place were they with a quarter of games played, and then again halfway, 3/4, etc. And this time we've highlighted the 3/4 stage, and you can see that teams with just a quarter of games left, they've been 5 points behind, 4 points behind, and still managed to go on and win the league. Whereas after 2004, the biggest deficit is 3 points, and that only happened once. Most of the time, they're either on top or just 1 point behind. And finally, given Chelsea's spending, it's not really surprising to see that teams have been reinforcing their squads of increasingly expensive players, often with instant success. So this viz shows the most expensive player in each Premier League winning squad. And you can also see, if you hover over, how quickly each player won their first title with that club after joining. So after 2004, you can see the cluster has kind of skyrocketed up to over 20 million usually compared to before. And say if we take Chris Sutton, he joined in 1994 and won his first season, won his title in his first season, and it's pretty much true for most of them. Roy Keane won it in his first season. Sylvan Wiltord made it too. But yeah, so the spending policies have increased and they're usually met with quite quick success. Anyone got any questions?
So explain a little bit about, go back a couple of charts and explain kind of the thought process behind, this one here and that series of charts as far as the coloring and kind of what we talked about with that.
Sure. So initially, I just had for games won, games drawn, and games lost as all different colours, but there was no highlighting to show the difference between the pre-2004 and the post-2004. And then when I ran through it, Andy suggested this way to do it. So you're drawing attention to the fact that there's been an increase in games won since 2004 rather than before. So obviously the darker colours creates a highlighting effect, which shows you the split between the two time periods.
The only thing with that, I think, is the actual red line, because you get on the orange, and then you've got red and blue.
Oh yeah, so using the orange makes the red line hard to see. Sure. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
Could you do a above average, below average graph instead of on? So sort of
how far are you from the average? Yeah, as like a deviation. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That might be another way to do it as well. Yeah. It tells the story slightly differently. Yeah.
I also find it a bit difficult to read the story points. Maybe using some bold for the white.
You mean the red font or the white font on the red?
The white and the red.
Okay.
I like the use of tooltips throughout.
Yeah, so if you
on the players bit especially, because you give that extra layer of detail.
So if you want to explore more, for this example, you can get all the team stats from each season, so you can see that Chelsea conceded about 0.4 goals a game, whereas Arsenal almost doubled what overdone.
So go back to the very the first one where you had the shields.
Yeah.
So Paul Chapman was suggesting, talking about how it can be hard to understand really what the size means and to make comparisons by the size. So he was suggesting doing, you guys haven't learned how to create them yet, but kind of like lollipop charts where you have a bar chart and then on the end is the shield for the team or something like that.
Okay.
But it would make it easier, would make the comparisons easier in that perspective. Yeah.
I think on this side as well, you've got United, you've got before and after.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good, even though it's 0 for some. I think it'd be good to have the same.
Oh, before and after. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good call. Anything else?
One more thing as a football fan, your 25%, 50%, 75% data.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before, and I would put that out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good.
That was really If you go back to your line charts, I think it's the one.
These ones.
This one here, especially the 50% thing. Yeah, to know that.
Really good.
It took a long time to go. It's all from the Barclays Premier League website, but just had to calculate it.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
See what?
Don't steal it, yeah. So basically, since 2005, only 2 teams have been not in first place at the midway point of the season.
Yeah, so obviously later on there's some variation, but so if you take out the highlight, you can see here with 10% of games left to play, they're actually third, but obviously
that's rare. Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't matter too much because it's in here.
You still have a chance.
They would have still been within that. Yeah.
Right. But at the midway point of the season, they were in second place.
Yeah.
They were in third. So you can kind of look down the chart. You can say, so when Man City won the title in 2014, they were in seventh place. A quarter of the way through the season, they were in second place, 50% of the way of the season. Yeah, so there's several ways you can visualize this. Yeah, that's really interesting to look down the graph as well.
I actually think you missed a trick on the page with the stars on as well, because you can actually see the big increase in quality since 2004-05 as well, with the points total being quite a bit higher as well, which I think is quite an interesting point to drill into.
Well, it could be where the bottom teams have gotten worse too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, probably because the rich got richer.
Yeah, true.
But the new TV contracts, it would be interesting to know.
So I do have the data for the relegation scores, but I think actually Ravi's already done a viz on the distribution.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the relegation scores actually seem to stay. They don't vary like this. They're actually pretty.
Fairly stable around 35 to 40 points. Yeah. Whereas there's only been that really poor quality in 2011, when anyone fell below the high end.
Yeah.
I think this was interesting. 2011 was interesting because Chelsea started that season really well. They were beating teams like 8-0.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
The only story point that I think sort of doesn't fit might be the last one with the salaries. I know you're trying to tie in the salary data there, but everything seems really like it flows really well until the very end. And I'm not sure. I understand what you're trying to do here, but I'm not sure it adds much that we didn't already say. Because this isn't showing Chelsea really spending a lot of money, it's showing all of the winners spending a lot of money, right?
But I guess the response was
for everybody to spend a lot of money, yeah. Except for Rio, all the spending went up in 2004. Yeah.
I guess because of Chelsea, the best players became more expensive, so it inflated transfer fees.
Yeah.
For example, probably not worth that much.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I was saying yesterday how Arsenal, I don't think they broke this transfer record for quite a while until
Ozil.
Yeah.
Could you plot winning points on that on the third dimension, and instead of maybe on the players' faces having a ball that gets bigger on the third dimension?
To represent, what would the size of the ball represent? The cost of
cost and then points, and then.
Yeah, so Ravi just made a good point on the chat. He was saying that actually what might be better to use here is the total amount of money spent on transfer fees instead of the highest wage, the highest transfer that year. To just look at the total money spent on transfers and to see if that's the same type of spike. Because some of that data can be really hard to get.
That's what I say. That's why I was a bit reluctant to actually do this at all because it's just from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Some of the fees are undisclosed or they're dependent on how many titles you win their laser add-on.
Right.
So
right.
Maybe I just scrap this bit and maybe so.
Yeah. Because I think if you go back one story point.
I think it's because I spent so long trying to Google their faces.
You felt like you had to include it. Yeah. But I think but I think this is like a good conclusion here, right? It's kind of a good stopping place, or maybe even one more where you point out how there's really only been one case where or two cases where people have come back from far behind, right?
Yeah. The other difficult thing with this is that you have to make arbitrary calls with these stages of seasons because sometimes a team would have only played 30 games
sure.
and someone else
Jules,
played 31 or something.
From this game, you conclude that Leicester will win the league this year.
So where are we? Depends.
We're about 25 way.
I'll judge it.
We're between 25 and 50% of the way through the season, right?
Yeah.
So if they keep going till January, then
they've got a chance.
I think there's a thing called regression to the mean that's going to stop you from
or money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good job. All right, next up is Anuka. Anuka, where is Anuka?
Yeah,
Oh.
right.
Anuka, make presenter.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So do download. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, because you did it through the browser.
Yeah, I did it through browser because I couldn't get on.
Oh, okay. Just do.
Add
Yeah,
extension.
just try that. See what happens.
Okay. Entire screen.
Yeah.
Go to meeting.
Do entire. Yeah. Just in case. Oh, sweet.
Oh, lovely.
So let's kill it. Close. And then I think you're gonna need to sign back in.
Yeah, right, okay.
Sure. Okay. Let's see if it works this time. Okay, you're the presenter, and then just hit the. Why is it not letting you share? Click on that.
Yeah.
And you need to mute. Well, let me mute you again. You are muted. Oh, hang on a sec. I need to make you the presenter again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you click on it now? There you go.
Oh, it's only when I try and share my screen, it can't handle it.
Okay. And you weren't able to install. Sorry, we're having trouble getting Anuka's presentation to share.
But it says I'm now the presenter.
Yeah, but you're on here like 10 times now.
Really?
So if I make you the presenter again. Or no, I mean Emily. Sorry, Emily. Sorry, Emily. I know you're not the presenter. Oh, you just went offline again.
Me? I'm on quite a lot.
Make presenter.
Okay, maybe I'll just do this one.
Try it. Yeah, see what happens.
Okay. Okay, so that one works. So
Okay.
I can't share my entire screen.
That's okay. We'll just
That's
flip back
fine.
and forth.
Yeah.
And I can see your screen fine. So.
Okay. And can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Oh, this is not up on that screen, if that matters.
Oh, because Jules went over there. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool. So this is my very first visualization. I wanted to do it on some data I got on diamonds. I thought it was quite interesting. And the very first thing you look at probably is the world map. And here I used a field map, which I think now is probably not the best because of obviously the size of the country really affects how much diamonds they're producing. Well, it looks like it does anyway. So for instance, you can see Australia obviously very dark, so produces a lot of diamonds, but then Russia looks like it produces way more, when actually Botswana produces more than Russia. So I'm going to change that in the next one. And of course, you can see the very, very, very busy line graph in the bottom left corner with lots of different colors and everything, and you just don't really know what's going on. I mean, you can obviously use the tooltip to see what country it is and that kind of thing, but it's just generally not very useful. And then you've got this very basic graph here, which is just value over time. And the last one, which is just a really simple bar chart, but with lots of different colors, not very useful. But the colors anyway. So then I'm going to now show my new visualization. Whoops, it's this one.
Probably, yep.
Is it up?
Hang on.
It looks like it's up.
No, you probably have to share. Go back over to Chrome.
Yep.
And go to share, and click on it again, and then go to your
this one.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is my new one.
Hang on one second. Let's make sure it comes up on the screen here. Okay.
Yep. So this is the new one, and it's done in an infographic style, skinny and long. And oh, really? Okay. It's done in an infographic style, skinny and long. And first thing you can see is production over time. And as you can see, production has gradually been rising, peaking in about 2005, and it's now actually been decreasing.
while value over time has steadily been decreasing. And you can ignore that massive spike around the 80s because that's actually an artificial spike in value due to inflation. So it's not actually a real spike in value of diamonds.
It's really a shitty economy is what it means.
Yeah, the 80s is just a mental time, apparently. And then next, when you go down, you can see the world map as before, except I've now used a symbol map. And so you can clearly see Australia is still by far the biggest. And then you can see Russia. Oh, and also I use this thing, which I'm calling a hover graph, which I'm quite...
Not hovercraft.
No, hover graph, which I'm quite fond of. And you just hover over it and it changes to look at the line graph, like as in diamond production over time for each country that you hover over, as well as highlighting the bar graph to the very right. And you can also, have the added functionality of, seeing the tiny little countries and choosing them if you want. And so you can see, like, yeah, fair enough, Canada, all these countries are producing diamonds, but then there's this massive cluster in Africa, which you can't really see very well. So I've added a little section for Africa, a well-deserved one, I think. And as you can see, much clearer now as to who exactly is producing the diamonds, how much, and also...
The line chart looks fantastic on this one.
Yeah,
it's a little bit bigger.
Because it's a little bit bigger, yeah, because I didn't want to, squidge any of the South American countries out. And it's much clearer now. You can see, for instance, massive spike in Guinea. No idea what the spike is, but Congo is actually very interesting.
Yeah, Guinea, they must have found a new mine. They totally took everything out of it.
Yeah, exactly, and then they left again, yeah. Congo is very interesting because you can see, like, decent diamond production, then the massive decline.
Changes or something, maybe.
That was the war, the civil war between the government and the rebels. Killed about like 6 million people, yeah, whether from the fighting or malnutrition or disease.
Wow,
so yeah, you can actually see it in the data.
Telling a social story as
exactly. It's very interesting.
The reality is there were still diamonds, they just got taken before because they were done.
Yeah, exactly.
Diamonds instead.
Yeah, so very interesting there.
That's diamonds they counted, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you can see there that the African countries, they're on the rise sort of, while Australia, huge producer, has actually been decreasing very steadily over time. Whereas Russia had this huge spike, so they must have found quite a few diamonds soon after 2000 and have continued to produce many since then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and you also, you point out the highlighting here or did you point out the highlighting of the countries on the right there?
Yeah, so it corresponds to the country.
And does it work the other way as well? If you highlight, if I want to know, like, let's say I don't know where Democratic Republic of Congo is.
Yeah.
How do I show that on the graph? Okay, so it doesn't work the other way.
No, it doesn't work the other way.
Okay.
So, could do that.
Yeah, that might be one thing to consider.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about why you have sort of three separate sections on here and kind of the discussion of why you chose to do that kind of design instead of squishing it all into a single screen.
Mm-hmm. Well, my other visualization I thought didn't really have a coherent flow or story to it, whereas here it is very much, now is probably a pretty good time to buy diamonds due to the top two graphs here. Those are the main arguments for that. And then the next sort of section here is just kind of looking into possibly where, like, just a deeper look into the countries and the production over time and that sort of thing. And then, again, a deeper look into Africa. So you go far, you look at the big picture, then you go closer and closer in. So it's more coherent.
Yeah, so thinking about it now, I think it might be nice if each of those sections had its own title. Not as big as the one at the top, but a title to sort of give, we added that space in there to kind of break it up, but it might be nice to have that space and then a title or something like that. Does that, to kind of say what that, and it would make it more clear that those are intentionally separate sections. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think I know why you've done the top two graphs as separate graphs, because it fits with the layout. If they were overlapped, I think it would look quite interesting.
You might see the relationship a little bit better.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, it's a very different here.
Yeah.
So it would actually be like the spike would actually be like here.
Okay.
No, that's okay. You could do it on a dual axis. So they would be the same. So it can be sometimes confusing for the reader, but we say
Right.
that
So
a
you
lot
know,
with financial ones. You just have two different indices.
You shouldn't put it on the secondary axis and then not synchronize them because that'll just confuse people.
Yeah, especially when it's the same. It's both money. It's
Yeah.
not money.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. So in this case, I think it makes more sense to split them because of the scales.
I couldn't see the scales, but I'm not looking.
So some feedback on the chat here.
Cool.
It says Paul Benoob says that he hears Tom gives each data school person a diamond as a Christmas bonus. That's a rumor, huh? Let's see. Aaron says he loves this one. Paul Benoob said he likes the how you separated out Africa separately. Yeah, and then Aaron said you kind of did like story points without story points, which is one of the things we kind of talked about. Emily says more fluid experience, good use of dashboard actions. Aaron says you should blog about the hover action that you did, how you put the little micro chart on there.
Introducing the hover graph.
Yep, even though it's going to go away soon, but that's okay. A lot of people won't upgrade to 9.2 for years, so they're going to need that kind of tip, so it's good to write about that.
Cool.
Okay, so Paul Benoob said 2006 is the peak in production, and also the year the Blood Diamond movie was released. So is there any relationship? Does increased publicity equals increased demand? Perhaps?
Yeah, actually.
And then Ravi said he really likes your header font for the diamond.
I did that really last minute.
It's good.
I liked it. Yeah, it was actually really interesting because
when you publish that, I bet you it doesn't render that way though.
I'll see. Yeah.
Because Tableau doesn't have all the fonts installed on their public on Tableau Public. Is that a custom font that you downloaded or?
No, it was on.
Oh, yeah, it's probably.
So probably on. Yeah.
You're probably okay.
Yeah. But it was really interesting because I've been recently hearing that more and more people are refusing to buy diamonds as engagement rings, obviously because of the blood diamond thing, but also just because it's becoming more known that the De Beers family, the De Beers Corporation, owned greatly by the Oppenheimer family, they did the whole. Diamonds equals romance, diamonds are for engagements. And before that, it was nothing like that. And they also had a huge supply, and they were very, very slowly controlling the supply, and therefore the price.
They own so many different jewelers.
Yeah, and they've actually sold now in 2011. So now it's going to be proper market forces now instead of. Yeah, so it's very interesting.
It's good that you know the subject quite well as well.
Well, I had to look into it because I was like, I can't have nothing to talk about.
That's the thing that some people would present without knowing that background information.
It seems like your data kind of gave you that starting point to engage with it
Oh
more.
yeah, absolutely. And it had a lot of questions definitely after this.
So Emily suggested possibly putting the De Beers stock value over time on here somewhere as well.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Maybe a card, but it might be interesting to see it on there and see if it looks the same shape as any of these other things.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Romero posted a link, or not a link, but the Fond of All Knowledge from Tableau Fringe Festival. So I'll post a link of that on Google Plus for you guys.
Good.
From Emma White, who we work with. So maybe she could
she came in and say hello. Yeah.
So that'd be easier, wouldn't it? Just have her come do it instead of watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you all for the feedback.
All right, great job.
Confused. Am I still sharing my screen? Yeah. Okay. I'll stop now.
What doesn't fit? You need that one.
Oh yeah, we need to switch. Okay, so we need to switch to some make presenter. Okay, and then we're going to need to do the same thing that here. Cancel. No. I think we need to, let's see, did I just mess that up? Launch. Okay, so here we go. No, deny. Let's mute you. I'll make sure you're muted. Okay. 1 second. Let me make, because you're in here twice now, I think. Are you? Who's presenter? I see your screen, so just go ahead and go.
Yeah, okay. I make the presentation mode. Okay. So I'm Simona, and I'm Italian, as Andy knows already. So my first visualization actually is about the young people aged between 10 and 17 years old, which actually received their first reprimand, warning, or conviction in local authorities in England. Okay. As you already know, our challenge was to do a makeover of our first work in Tableau. Basically, I started questioning myself, asking, okay, how could I improve my first story in Tableau? And also, thanks to the feedback of yesterday of Andy, I could manage to understand better what I could do more. The problems of my first visualization, I built a story. Actually, where the use of colors, for example, for the and also the story points actually were too much crowded. I split it up the story, making more points, just to make it more fluid, and also the use of calculations and graphs actually could be improved. So from the first image, you can see that actually was my first story. We can go to the new story I've built, and here we have the map of England, which actually shows the number of young people receiving their first reprimand, working, or conviction for local authorities in 2009. So from this point, I asked myself, okay, what if we look at the level of region from 2001? So the graph below actually seems to show that almost all England region presents an overall decrease in the number of young criminals between 2001 and 2009. What does this region have actually in common? Okay, I think there is a
I think you missed one.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I missed the story. I don't know, it's just disappeared. Anyway, there was a story point actually. I swear,
About
there
the
was
increase.
it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it.
I don't know what happened. Okay. Anyway, there was a story
That's it right
point.
there. It's right there, right?
Where?
Is that it?
Yeah, but
just switch to that for
okay.
now. Just show like this and then switch
yeah,
back.
I show this one.
Pretend
I don't
it's
know
in the
why.
story.
Okay, let's pretend that this is a story point anyway. In between 2005 and 2007, all the region actually presents an increase in the number of young criminals. And going back actually to the story, however, this number has had a decline between 2007 and 2009 across all regions. So basically from here, there is an outlier actually. If we look at the percentage change from 2001 across all regions in England, we can see that East of England is the only one actually experiencing an increase in the criminality level, while West Midlands is the one that actually experienced a very significant decrease. At this point, I continue to ask questions to myself, okay, too many questions. So I thought, okay, what if we look at the level of these two particular regions? So
you've now filtered to the East Midlands, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So about East of England. East of England is which is the one that actually has this increase in the young criminal level. As four main contributors as local authorities in this number. On the other hand, West Midlands is the one that actually has a lot of local authorities that actually have contributed to reduce significantly the young criminality level there. So I mean, this my story. If you have any feedback or something, I could.
I really like what you did with the last two story points,
Yeah.
and continuing to use the same color that you used on the one before. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but she followed the orange and the green through to the next to kind of talk about, okay, here's the one that's doing the worst, here's the one that's doing the best. How are their individual local authorities doing? So really, really good.
Yeah.
Great use of color. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, compared to the first version, it really the development and the here is pretty clear, and what they want to, the message that they want to.
So in her previous version, she had all of her analysis was written in the story point text, right? So I was like, take each of those four sentences in there and make it 4 story points, right? That's kind of the point of story points, is to walk you step by step through something, through a story, right?
Yeah.
So this is significantly better from that perspective.
You get immediately the message.
Yeah. Any feedback on the chat there? I mean, you're giving feedback that has nothing to do with the visualizations, but. So Paul wants you to say visualization again.
Visualization.
That was really nice. Well, he is Romeo after all. So.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. So.
What?
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Let's get off of this before any more trouble here. Good job. All right, Rob, did you finish yet? Yeah.
Not happy, to be honest. But...
Where are you on here? Oh, there you are. Okay, let me make you the presenter. You see it?
Share my screen?
Yes. Now this is a case of, do we have to look at the old one? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that they're showing the old one. I'm like, you guys didn't change anything. Come on.
Nobody knows the to be honest. Did you have to plug into the? Yeah, I want to show. I don't know. Should I show people what I did before? Yeah. Change much. Let's just simplify and kind of. Yeah, just go through it. Plug the thing in.
Don't worry about it. Relax.
No, it's difficult to convert because it's over such a long piece.
All right, so next is Rob Sotheby. Soon to be. Soon to be, yeah. Soon to be. Soon to be.
Is that working? Yeah.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Rob.
Stick it in presentation mode.
Presentation mode, yeah. So
hit the
yeah.
There it goes.
So mine's
What's that?
That's what I got. I'll get on. So I'm just going to briefly take you through what I did.
She left.
She did. No, she left. She left since I started talking.
Oh, that was great. For the rest of you online, Rob's girlfriend was watching and she stopped as soon as
Literally
he
just
started.
came up just now.
So pure love.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I'm going to briefly take you through what I did for mine. It's not as simple to show as the others because I don't have just sort of one or two charts. So I'm just going to quickly take you through what I had. So I did my first presentation on run scoring in baseball because I was working through an online course at the time in sabermetrics, which is a scientific study of baseball. The main kind of things were sort of that Andy, Carl, and I looked at were to simplify a little bit, look at some of the colour schemes where I had a few sort of strange colour schemes and try and sort of help guide the reader through it a little bit easier. I also had really, as you can see, really long comments on, or headers on, titles on there, which was kind of made it a little bit kind of difficult to read. So it sort of started off with an overall picture of, this is runs per game going back from 1900 to 2015. So you can see it's kind of changed quite a bit. It started off back in the early 1900s around 3 runs per game, up around just before the Second World War, got up to almost 6, and then kind of dipped all the way back down, and then kind of went back up. So it's kind of been all over the shop. And there's various reasons kind of for that. So I sort of looked through those.
So I think an interesting thing to mention is, so when Carl and I were talking to you about this yesterday, we said, well, why'd you use the diamonds? And, you know.
The reason I use diamonds is because you not see that it's a baseball diamond. Yeah.
Or you can tell the real reason.
Yeah, the real reason was I was replicating something. So I drilled into the first area, and we'll come back to it in a second. So I took a look at why it was low scoring early doors. Then we had a look at what was driving the rise in run scoring in 1920s. I really wanted to get some pie charts in there and some bar charts and also some maps. They don't really tell you very much, but I was trying to impress, so I just chucked a bit of everything in there.
This is still his old one, by the way, for those online.
Yeah, this is still the original one, just for you. Yeah. And then we had a look at a specific rule that we'll look at in a second. Thanks.
You can turn the chat off, by the way.
Yeah.
Click on it if you don't want to be distracted.
No, not at all. And then I looked at the 1990s. So there's quite a lot of graphs in there. There's quite a lot of quite consistent colours. I was fairly comfortable with the colours. There's lots of different types of charts. There's lots of writing. So it's kind of quite heavy going, I think, to the user. So now switching to the new one. So looking at the first chart, we've kind of inverted the colour scheme because previously your eyes were kind of drawn out to in rather than into out. Whereas what I've basically done here, the dotted line in the middle is the average. That's got so roughly about 4.5 runs scored per game across the sort of whole time period. The next grey blocks are everything within 1 standard deviation. So for those who sort of understand mathematical terms, that basically means everything within that kind of that big grey range is kind of around average, give or take a little bit of movement. The next grey box is 2 standard deviations, so you're getting a little bit out there. Then you're sort of getting to within 60% or something of the norm. And we got quite a lot in there across the whole period. And then in the white box, which was previously the dark grey, we've got a couple of outliers that are within 3 standard deviations. So again, just kind of simplified it. I took the comments off because, to be honest, kind of sort of see what's going on, especially with a little bit of a talk through. I know, thank you. That was stolen off Brian, actually. So I really like that one. I've used that on quite a few physics, actually, sort of reference lines. So they work quite well on this kind of one, especially with sort of standard deviations.
It really helps show the outliers, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't remember the exact mathematical numbers, but this one doesn't look super high, but that's actually something like 90% away from the average. So that year is a huge outlier, especially when you think 10 years before it was down there. So my second chart is kind of the same. Basically, I've kind of picked a couple of metrics that sort of show high scoring, low scoring. I won't turn on that one too much. Again, kind of simplified the next graph a little bit, just to try and take some of the off, just try and sort of simplify it a little bit.
What's this one telling us?
So this one's showing, so basically Babe Ruth came along in the late or start of 1920s, and along with the super majors, he came along and he started hitting a lot of home runs, started scoring a lot, started increasing, sort of started bringing the whole league up. A lot of people realised they could do the same thing, and it kind of, so the blue bars are Babe Ruth's home runs per game, and the red line is the league average. So you can kind of see it's kind of moving a little bit with him.
So for example, in 1922, he was hitting half as many home runs, or roughly half as many home runs himself, as the entire league was on average.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which shows you how good he was.
No idea. To be honest.
There's probably a rule change or something. Baseball changes the rules a lot to influence scoring in the game.
That's been around the time.
So if scoring gets too high, then they'll make rules to bring scoring down.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to do the opposite because pitching has gotten too good.
Did you just switch hat?
No idea. So this is a graph that I really like. So this is kind of funny on the theme that Nye looked at earlier. Not quite using the same excellent underlying technology. This is a bit fudged, but basically what we're looking at here. So there's in baseball there are two different leagues that form Major League Baseball, and they run with completely different sets of rules in theory. One can run with one set of rules, one can run with another. They don't, but run scoring dipped after the Second World War, and by the time we got to the 70s, one of the leagues decided it wanted to bring in a new rule. I won't go into too much detail, but basically it meant that the person who pitches or who bowls doesn't have to bat anymore. Now, it's a specialist position, so he's the worst batter on the team. And in the other league, they said you could replace that pitcher with a specialist batter. They could come in and hit. So they're going to score more runs or in theory, they should score more runs than the teams in the other league. And what Carl and Andy suggested was that on the other one, which if I bring that back up quickly.
But I think if you, go ahead, you got to show your old one.
Yeah, so on this one, apart from the resolution, because there's sometimes the tablet public, it's kind of difficult in some places to work out where the correlation between the 2 years is. So we thought, actually, if we tie them together, blow it up a little bit, it'll be a little bit easier. And I think when you look, it's the same one. If you look on this one, you can now actually really clearly see the range between some of them. Half a run per game off of less than 5 runs, that's quite a bit. That's an extra 10% that one team scored. So it helps to drive.
So it just shows the influence of. So the DH rule change took about 10 years to really have, or 7 or 8 years to have a real impact on the league. But since then, because it was only supposed to be a trial initially, it was supposed to be a 1 or 2 year trial, and it's really made a big difference in scoring in the American League.
The interesting thing is nobody really knows why this is. There's a couple of theories behind it. If I could look on my other one again, I have something on there. No one's entirely sure why it took 5 years.
They changed the style of batter.
Yeah.
It used to be more, they used to just have somebody that was more going to get on base more often.
Right, okay.
And now the DH is typically somebody that hits home runs and drives runs.
Right,
More of a power hitter versus a,
think
of it as like speed versus power.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
90's
Maybe. And then for the last one, this is a graph that I think Carl really liked. So basically, 1990 suddenly saw people smashing the ball out of the park, left, right, and centre, which at the time everyone put down to increased athleticism. As sports kind of became more professional, there was more money coming in. Actually, it was just that they were all off their heads on drugs. They were all taking steroids because the league basically allowed it. Yeah, they didn't really care. And so what this is showing is time period from 1915 all the way up to 1990, where there were about, I don't know what it is, 15 people who hit more than 50 home runs in a season, which used to be considered a big deal. Can't quite see it, one of these years is 1999, when 3 people hit something around, between 60 and 70 in the same year, which is completely unheard of. So it's kind of to show just how much power there was in that kind of late 90s, early 2000s. So we now know that it was down to drugs, because they were all on steroids.
Great ad for drug use.
Well, you see it come back down toward the end, right? So you've got that short period where players, basically Major League Baseball didn't have testing rules.
Yeah. So in 2003
they
they brought
they
in
wanted.
they brought in laws to say you couldn't do it, and by 2007 they were actively testing on an
And you
occasional
can see
basis.
it's back down to the norm where it's always been throughout history.
Yeah. I haven't got the data for the last couple of years, but the trend since 2007 has been going down. So undoubtedly there'll be some rule changes coming in the not too distant future to try and sort of get that back up again. So yeah, apologies. It was a little bit more difficult to kind of try and present because it was done across sort of point. I was busy on my blog, but
Paul brought up a question. He said, "Why didn't you use baseball shapes?"
Didn't know how. Basically, I did try to bring a baseball in today, but I was having some issues trying to bring in transparent images like PNGs and stuff, so I haven't quite figured out exactly.
Yeah, and also I think if you used a baseball here, you'd have to use a different background to show the contrast.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on, is adding a baseball really adding any value? It makes it cuter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily make it, doesn't make the data any more interesting. Yeah. But you'd have to play around with some of the other stuff to make it, to make it still look okay.
One of the things I really liked that Angela looked at earlier was trying to get, can't quite see it on here, but you can just about see some faint lines between the axes. So I kind of put a dual axes on.
You can see them on the screen.
Yeah, you can see it on the screen, not so well on here. But I put the two dual axes on, synchronize them, and then we put a very faint line. Can't really see it on there. But on the screen, it's actually quite cute. It's quite faint, but you can just about see it. It kind of helps guide you to where you are, with it being on both sides of the screen. For this kind of scatter plot-esque type graph, I think that actually works really well. So I actually adopted that across quite a few.
It would be really, so in this particular case, if you were looking at things on the right-hand side and he didn't have that axis on the right, it might be, you would have to almost guess where you were on the left-hand side, right?
Yeah. I'll make it black. There you go. So you see those grid lines there now, it doesn't look very nice. When it's kind of faint, right? It actually works quite nicely to guide them. Yeah.
Undo.
Looks like a baseball outfit though. Like this.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Pinstripes.
Yeah. So it just kind of helps guide. So I think I'll actually adopt that as a format for quite a few of those kind of graphs. I think it works really well. They're looking at either side. They can easily kind of see or gauge where they are. So I thought it worked quite well. I am now going to undo that. Gosh. Yeah.
Great question.
One of the story points you selected and then went straight on to the next one.
Yeah, without being able to explain it, it wasn't really going to make any sense, and I can't really remember what.
So in that case, you probably should take it out, right?
It would be fine. I just didn't have the time to remember what the point was, to be honest.
So stolen bases and sacrifice hits is more like small ball.
Yeah.
They call that small ball. Home runs is long ball.
Yeah. So basically, in the 1910s, instead of just hitting the ball, because it was quite difficult, so anyone who knows cricket knows you can't tamper with the ball. It's the biggest no-no in cricket. In the 1910s, in baseball, you could do whatever the hell you liked. So they would get bits of glass, cut into the ball, scruff them up, get them dirty. So it's really difficult to see the ball. So basically, you would just stand there, hit it a little bit as much as you could, and then leg it to the base and hope you can make it there instead of hitting it out.
It's also a shift in strategy in the way baseball was coached as well, and how teams were scoring runs. So. The baseball's played very, very differently now than even the way it was when I played. So.
What's a sacrifice hit?
Where you hit the ball for no real reason, just to try and get one of your other teammates across.
It means there's a guy on third, and you're trying to get him to score, and you hit the ball far enough so that when the guy catches the ball, he can score without getting tagged out.
But you get out, you're sacrificing your own chance.
Okay.
It's a meaningless statistic, absolutely meaningless. But it's a way to credit players for. So when you if you get credited for a sacrifice, it doesn't count against your statistics.
Yeah. Okay.
So from a batter's perspective, it doesn't. It's good. It's better for your statistics because you get credit for bringing somebody home, but you don't get debited for getting out.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's actually funny.
Yeah.
There's people that do it by accident. Just, I meant that.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And it's usually big fat guys that get all the sacrifice hits. So, all right, good job.
Cool. Sure. Please check out my blog post. They're much better than that presentation.
Better writer than a speaker?
Yeah.
All right, and last up is Benedetta.
it was the audio track.
Friday nerves.
Friday nerves.
All right. Nice started us off great. We've had 6 more great presentations since, so don't let us down.
Yes.
Exactly. So did you share your desktop? So click on the middle one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
And
close the tab.
It is showing. Yep, you're good.
Okay. I have to run soon. Hello, hi. I'm Benedetta, the second Italian on the table, and this is already the new visualization, and this comes from my personal experience because I was traveling to London, and basically I didn't know which where to stay and what was good for my budget. I didn't know which neighborhood and areas were cheap or expensive, so I thought. Would be really nice to have a visualization that can actually show me if I select a range of my budget per night, shows me at least which are the areas that I should consider. So I made this base.
Are you going to show your old one?
Yeah, I can.
She was trying to get away. She was trying to get away with that.
Can I share from Tableau tablet?
Yeah. We can see your desktop.
So I told you, I accidentally deleted it.
Accidentally on purpose?
Accidentally on purpose.
Interesting. I mean, I can bring it up if I need to.
Public.
There you go. Yeah, you were right on there.
Yeah.
Somebody still uses Hotmail?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah. And BB Italia was account I made when I was 14, yeah. So my previous one was quite horrible, but was colorful. Actually, my boyfriend said that
color.
You didn't send this, right? I said, yeah. So my wish for the horrible, like my boyfriend.
He is Romeo, you know.
Metaphorically. So the first image was people plays love. Anyway, what I was trying to do was to create a map with all my energy, but I just got this map. It was just showing the neighborhoods and a pie chart that just showing the number of hostings.
With as many possible slices as you could get
as
in
possible,
it, right? Yeah.
Yes. And the other one was the room type, counting by the host ID, the number of hosted by neighborhood, and for each one, the average price. And for the unsorted pie chart, yes. And the second one was I was trying to use all the data of the data set. So I made the reviews.
So she was kind of trying to do like Rob and trying to use every possible chart, right?
Yes.
See, I can use the tool.
Unsorted. Yeah, but because the truth is that I was happy because I was an expert of Tableau. I was able to create things really easily without sense. I was just creating, but I was, yeah. And availability over the year, something really important, and so on. So can I go to the new one?
Sure. This kind of hurts my eyes to look at. So yeah.
So this is the new one.
I did that. You should do that so that people appreciate what you've done.
Of course.
So.
I hope then you appreciate my new one. And it's just much more clean, I think. And the mission is to funny comments.
Ignore the comments, do your presentation.
Yes. So basically what we get that 86% of Airbnb London offers are below £125. And then in the chart, in the bar chart below, I tried to make the top 10 neighborhoods for number of hostings. And we can get that Acne and Tower Hamlets has one of the most number of hostings, but we can get that of around 50% are within £50 because it's a cheap area in the east. And the third one is Westminster, and if we highlight it, we can see that it's another price. And yeah, wait a second. That's why it's not the legend, because it's the wrong one.
There you go.
There you go. And then so let's. I just try to play around to get how it works. So let's imagine that I'm really poor. I want to spend the maximum £24, not even 25, and I don't care about the entire house. I want to have I'm fine with private room or shared room. So I got to select here.
You just want something cheap.
Cheap.
Right. Yeah.
Cheap and clean maybe, but
Clean's optional. Bed, totally optional.
Even a floor. So I can see that with this budget, I get in Acne, I can get a private room, and if I select this, I get the area. And if I select the dots, I can get even the name of those, the minimum nights, a basic of information.
Yeah. So in the tooltip, I would probably, what actually might be really neat there is, first off, I'd clean the tooltip up, get rid of the latitude and longitude because you really don't need that. But you could actually put a link to their Airbnb profile. So you could have a URL action. I know we haven't learned about those, but you could have a URL action that goes to the host, and or you could even do like let's see who did that. Oh, like Anuka, and you could have a little web page that pops up and shows their little profile of them or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
All these ideas I get after we've already discussed it. Yeah.
Yes, always. Then let's suppose I'm a bit richer, or maybe let's suppose I want to go with some friends. So we can afford to spend a bit more, and we want an entire house. So let's suppose maybe I can spend 75 per night. Then I get still an Acne, but an entire home. And here again, you can get the area, and the dots are and Alice and Jules. We get many names. But let's be crazy. We are rich now for one day, and let's say that I can spend 175.
Can I select more than one? So what if I want to do more than 175?
I can select like 3
Okay.
and get what I can get in this range. Yeah, and like again, Westminster, and now we get the richest areas like Kensington, Westminster, Chelsea, Hackney, Camden.
Okay.
And yeah, like this.
This is good. What would be really cool is if your thing that says 86% of Airbnb offers are below 125, if that updated dynamically based on what you picked. So for example, if you click on Hackney, so click on Hackney here, it still says 86%, but that's not necessarily true anymore. So it would be really neat to see that. You could actually make that actually a sheet. And you know, and have it update based on the filters.
Yeah.
That would be a neat thing to include, because then it's more, you know, it's more relevant to what they've picked in the visualization.
Like that this change related to.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is, the only thing I think that's one of the things that I see now that's lacking is I can't filter by room type. Because that gives me just room type in Hackney.
Yeah.
So it would be neat if you could, you know, there might be an option is maybe to stick a small filter on there somewhere, like a little drop down that lets you pick the room type, because you may want to just pick, you know, just the entire home or something like that.
Maybe could be a filter here.
Well, that's you can't filter off of that, but you could put a little drop down somewhere or something. I mean, you could make something that looks like that. That's an action filter. Okay. You could make it dummy up a sheet, but you guys, you know, you wouldn't have been expected to learn that yet. So talk a little bit about the color choices you made.
So I want to make as much as possible related to Airbnb company. So we had looked in the internet and the websites because it's everything really declared, and the font and the colors, the Airbnb logo I used to make the first bar chart. For the second and the third, there are still colors belonging to Airbnb company because now they have this open. They make this new thing that you can design their logo and you get. Anyway, they have 8 colors. They are secondary compared to the first one that is the official one, but the other 8 I used as well. So I used to make the room types.
I love the use of the Airbnb logo color on the first chart as well. It's really cool.
Yeah, we picked the exact code, and you just showed me how to do it. It was really cool.
As Emily said, I think the location filter on the map is really good. That it zooms in based on.
Yeah, the filtering zooms in.
Yeah.
It's all relative to whatever you've selected. Yeah, I think that is really neat. Yeah. No, how it when you select, like if you pick Hackney, it filters down to Hackney. It goes into that area.
Yeah. So I think there's that many Airbnbs.
That's amazing, isn't it? How many people are doing it?
Yeah.
Is that a Tableau built-in function, or is that something Benedetta's done?
There's just an action filter.
I can see when you do that, it will automatically zoom in.
You just unpin your map.
Yeah, just make sure your map's not pinned. Yeah.
The only thing I'd say is if you've got the room type,
like a filter.
not the filter, the what's it called on the bottom right?
Legend.
The legend. Yeah.
If you've got that there, I don't see the need to put the names on the bars.
Oh yeah. We'll clean that up a little bit. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
But that's apart from that, I think it's really good.
Yeah. But I hope it's better than the first one.
It
Oh,
wouldn't have taken much.
So is it like underneath the layer of pink on the map? There's like loads of private rooms as well.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you can't see that.
yeah,
It
it's
just
kinda,
looks like the central.
the problem is
only entire homes.
the problem is this. If you move the yellow to the front, then the whole thing looks yellow because there's so many.
Yeah, so it's like how do you do
But I
that?
think it's kind of neat because it just shows how many different places there are. Right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it's kind of neat as well.
If you click on the legend of that, does it just filter?
Yeah. So click on. It doesn't filter, no, but it should highlight the map.
Oh, it does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It just doesn't change the top graph.
Because that doesn't have room type in it.
Yeah. Okay, so it does.
But you can create like a sheet that looks like one of those that looks like a legend in order to use it as an action filter. You can do that. Yeah.
It might be too complicated now, but if you could add another map with like landmarks in London, so you would like zoom in to the area and see how far you are from certain things that you want to go to, like that'd be kind of
Maybe if you clicked on a house, could you draw a load of routes to tourist attractions?
Maybe.
Or like see the actual.
There's lots you
I
can
know
do.
that's for you.
Like see the actual rooms.
We'll do another makeover of these at the end.
Extreme makeover.
This is the first one. This is the second. This is the
plastic
last.
surgery.
You can lose the axis on the bottom graph as well. Like the 0 to 1800
No,
thing.
because
Think it's
the
helping?
bars aren't labeled.
But is it helping? Because it's not.
Well, yeah,
presumably
you've
that's
got around 2,000 rooms available in Hackney.
Yeah.
But is the absolute number the important thing, or is it the relative?
Yeah.
I think the absolute.
Well, she was going for. You were going for the volume of.
Yeah. Just to
availability,
show that these are the top in Acme. There are 2,000 people renting.
So again, she's done the same thing like a lot of you have, where she's put the subtitle. You know, we talked about this a lot this week. Is putting the subtitle with the call to action, so you don't have to have text everywhere. But a very, very minor thing. This font for the bottom one, where you say "click on the neighborhood," does not match that one. This one's bold, that one's not. That kind of stuff irritates me a little bit, but it's not terrible. Yeah, and you should make sure you rotate your labels. You have to turn your head sideways on the top graph.
You mean this one?
Yeah.
Can you just rotate it?
Yeah, just what do you do? If in doubt?
Right click?
Yeah.
I guess right click.
All right. Well, that's it. So good job. All right. So that's it. If there's just leave it there for now. So that's it for this week. So everybody online, thanks for coming on. And does anybody have any last questions or feedback? Or Paul says nice work. Thanks, guys and gals.
Get used to Andy. Yeah.
Andrew.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Did we miss anyone? Yeah. So Paul, yes, I did record the whole thing. So I'll cut out the beginning because we had took like 15 minutes to get the thing working right. So we'll figure it out. Pablo says that DS2 is going to kick DS1's asses. So
Is it Diamond every Christmas or just
Diamond every? Yeah, we'll have to ask Tom about that. Yeah. So all right, guys. Have a good weekend. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.